Welcome back, everybody. The Yankee and the Brit. I'm Jay. He's Maddie, and we are going to go through some NFC offseason moves, but we're going to talk some of the rule changes too.
Yeah, very exciting. Very big offseason. Talking about the NFC offseason moves is a pretty massive topic for us to cover. So let's see how long this video takes.
Right. So let's talk some of those offseason moves, though, quick, Maddie. Like, or the offseason
The rule changes.
Yeah. We'll talk about the kickoff last because I still fucking hate it and I can't get over the Mickey Mouse nature of the new kickoff rule. But So Dan Campbell actually did one good thing for the NFL. Dan Campbell and Detroit Lions now have helped change the challenge rule to if you get one challenge right, you get that challenge back with a maximum of 3. You no longer have to get both challenges right to get the third challenge.
Yeah, you should always get your challenge back, right? I feel like, and then get your third challenge as well. I feel like that's just a common sense rule. Do you know what? I don't hate challenges like in the NFL. Like I don't want unlimited challenges because then people will use them as timeouts. But I don't see the problem with challenges. It surely means that we'll get more concise refereeing going forward.
I think I've always said you should get 2 wrong challenges a game. So even if I challenge 50 times, as long as I don't get 2 of them wrong, because it's not the coach and the team's fault that refs suck. But
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I was just going to say, but they're never going to do that because of TV time.
Yeah. Well, it gives them more advertising time, the more challenges, I guess. But then the game just becomes so long. With cricket, the way that it's done is you get 3 reviews. At the start of a day's play, you get 3 reviews, and if you keep on getting them right, you just hold on to those reviews. But once you've got 3 wrong, you can't review anymore. But like as long as you don't get 3 wrong, then it's fine. But if you keep getting them right, you keep holding on to your reviews. So in essence, you get 3 chances to get it wrong.
I think that makes more sense to me, but I do like the expanded booth review that they're doing this year, so more plays can be radioed down into the ear of the refs, even though they pretended last year like they didn't do it, and they'd be like, after further discussion, when that they were really saying was, after the dude in the booth got in my ear and told me we were wrong, we're reversing, but now they're going to actually use the booth more, which I think is great.
What we need to hear, what needs to happen is we need to hear the discussion between the refs about like their discussion about what's going on in that play, because that's what they have in rugby, and it's very successful in rugby, where you hear the head referee and the video official, you hear them discussing the call, and it just makes everything more open. It just makes sure that the fans you can disagree with the call, but at least you understand where it's coming from at that point, and it just makes everything feel more open. And I think it's also so good when you're watching it and you can like see a call kind of going your way very slowly, or you see it ebbing away from you very slowly, and then all of a sudden someone says something that takes it completely in the other direction, and it just adds to the theater of the actual decision. But more booth reviews, I don't even necessarily think it needs to be booth reviews, because basically every time they go over to the booth, they're going to change their decision. Like pretty much every time they go over to the booth, we know they're changing their decision. So not necessarily booth reviews, but the more reviewable plays, the better in the NFL.
Well, I don't know if you could tell, but my look of disgust for even bringing up fucking rugby at this point in my life makes me hate fucking rugby. And that brings us to the hip drop tackle, which caused a couple Aussies to lose their fucking mind in a group. And I didn't know this, but Maddie pointed it out. So Dan Walls, if you're watching this, you dumb motherfucker, the NRL isn't even the best rugby league, and that was your dumbass argument. So yes, I'm putting that dude out on blast. After he told me how bad America sucked, how I was an ignorant, stupid, like self-absorbed American, and
yeah. So there are 2 forms of rugby, and Jay got in an argument with somebody who is an Australian supporter of rugby league.
Well, it
Now-
really wasn't even an argument. It was a question that led to anger because I said, "Are you really comparing the NFL to the NRL?"
Yeah,
And then he said something about the idea of tackling is the same, and I said, "Do you really believe tackling somebody in rugby is the same as two guys running 20 miles an hour tackling each other?" And then he lost his fucking mind.
yeah. I think the question of who's tougher in rugby and the NFL is always going to just like
It wasn't even
divide
tougher though. It was
opinion.
about this
Yeah,
hip
yeah.
drop tackle,
But
and
that's what
well,
he'll
they
be.
banned
That's
it
what
in
he'll be getting
rugby.
obsessed about.
I don't give a fuck what they did in rugby. Like,
Yeah, yeah. So with you can ban the hip drop tackle in rugby a lot easier because of the way tackle technique works in rugby, because the way that the tactic works is you've got one line of people going up against another line of people. You don't just have somebody coming from the other side to like take them out and it be because that's offside. So in the NFL you have obviously guys coming from every direction. So if you're coming to tackle somebody from behind, the hip drop tackle is a little bit more helpful, right? The thing is with rugby league as well, rugby league is basically played in Yorkshire, which is a county in England, and Australia, and then the rest of the rugby playing world plays something called rugby union, which is just better. But but yeah, so look, I'm in favor of them banning the hip drop tackle as long as they define tackle is.
okay,
Oh,
repeat
you
that.
just
I had to
muted me.
mute you for fun. Sorry.
You just made me. I'm in favor of them banning the hip drop tackle as long as they clearly define what the hip drop tackle is. The problem is the definition isn't clear enough, which is going to lead to problems going further down the line. And it should be more things like using excessive force in the hip drop tackle, like
We
using
might as well just
like
go
those
to
kind of
fucking
things.
flag football and get it over with because that's where the fuck it's going.
No, like the
How do
hits
you
and stuff.
tackle a guy? So I'm running on the side of him. I grab him by his waist. We're both running somewhere in excess of 13 to 20 miles an hour. And how am I supposed to tackle this guy without dropping?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. The definition needs to be a bit clearer on it because there is no way to tackle somebody. There is no way to tackle something without dropping.
How
It's
about
the
we just
landing on the back of the leg, but then it becomes like people are getting banned for stuff that is clearly accidental. So it's so difficult to define that. I think what the NFL is trying to do is obviously have
not
less
get
players
sued?
get injured. Sorry?
They're just
Yeah.
trying not to get sued. Like
Yeah,
that's it.
trying not to get sued. So they
Because
have less players get injured. So if you say things like "we'll flag you for it," that's okay to me. But you can't then go banning players for games and making them play massive fines. I'm like,
they already said
okay,
that
that gets
even
a
if
bit
it doesn't
close.
get called, that they're going to fine them. And
Yeah, I
my
don't think that's
argument,
fair.
and I got so worked up, my voice just a second ago cracked like a prepubescent boy trying to talk. But like, how about we just accept, which all the players have already accepted, that football is an inherently dangerous game where injuries are going to happen. And the more rules they keep making, the closer and closer we get to flag football.
Yeah, I think you can set rules out that will make it less likely that players are going to get injured. So
The players hate it.
yeah,
The
yeah.
NFLPA fought against it, and they still passed it unanimously.
That's what I was just about to say. When the NFLPA came out against it, I was like, okay, that's fine. I'm fine with that. I think like the laws around not hitting people in the head, I think is pretty
I get
right.
that.
Like that's
Yes.
good. Like,
I think
yeah,
they take it too far, but yes, like those grazing, like when a guy comes in and it grazes the quarterback's helmet with his hand trying to block the pass. Like we need to go
all the
back
stuff
to
on the quarterback. Yeah,
we need to go back to forcible contact. Like, and
yeah,
then my problem with this too is, and I think you'll agree, we're putting more on the refs that is subjective. Like the refs don't get enough shit. And this was brought up I think it was Boston Connor, but this was brought up the other day and I heard it, so now when this happens and it helps somebody like the Chiefs, this whole it's scripted and rigged thing is going to go even more like insane.
Yeah, so that's where I'm at with it. I don't dislike them banning. I don't mind them banning the tackle that got Mark Andrews injured.
The NFL said that's the least egregious of all of them.
Yeah, which is like that's crazy. Like, I don't mind them banning that style of tackle and making it a flaggable offense, but I don't want to see players get extended bans. I don't want to see them get like massive fines for this.
What year were you born?
97.
Okay, so I think this was 2 years after you were born, so you won't remember it. But this play could have changed the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
0 seconds left on the clock after this. But then it'd have been personal foul, hip draft tackle on 52 on the defense, half the distance to the goal. We were on time down. Like that could have literally changed the Super Bowl over that tackle.
Yeah, I'm all for them making the game more safe. My biggest issue with it is just how subjective it is. Like what you're saying, I'm almost weirdly justifying, and I hate this, is like a cause-based penalty. So if a player gets injured from it, that's when it's penalized. But if everybody's okay, you just move on. But
then you just fake an injury.
Yeah. Well, that should. Yeah. Fair enough. That's kind of against the. I guess that's like the least. For me, when I watch the NFL, faking injuries is the last thing I expect American football players to do.
They fake injuries just to get time for their defense to breathe.
Yeah.
You know, there's been times where two guys fall at the same time and one of them looks like they just got shot after a play to try to, like, you know what I mean? Get by more time so their defense can breathe on one of those drives.
I'm okay with them banning it. They need to really clear up the law on it going forwards. And I hate
that they banned it, and I find it ridiculous.
I hate anything subjective for the refs to do.
All right, well,
like refs being led to doing anything. Sorry, refs being led to doing anything subjective is awful.
Yeah, let's talk about the kickoff rule before we get into the NFC. And I fucking hate it. It's Mickey Mouse as fuck. It's the weird XFL with some tweaks. And now they're like, so for anybody who doesn't know, the kicker will still stand at the 30 and kick. The kick team will now stand at the opposing team's 40. The receiving team will stand at the 35. And the kicker now has to drop the kick between the 20 and the goal line. Otherwise, if it hits before it, it's an out of bounds kick, move the ball to the 40. If you kick it into the end zone, it is now at the 30. But if it lands in that 20-yard gap and then goes into the end zone and is a touchback, then it's to the 20, which is way too many rules as it is.
Yeah.
And then teams are just going to start putting fucking like their best player back there, and other teams are going to go, fuck you, I'm not kicking it to Tyreek Hill, and just kick it out the back of the end zone and let you have it at the 30 anyway. It's not going to help the game. It's not going to help the kickoff. It's going to make the whole thing a fucking clown show. I hate it. I fucking hate it.
Yeah, it's too many rules, isn't it? Like, I really want them to bring kickoffs back because there is nothing more electric than somebody returning it to the house for a kickoff, right? And the reason for not having your best player back there or having a punt return, kick return specialist is because you're terrified that your best player is going to get hurt. But if you have guys starting at so where does the kicking team start off at when they're running towards them, like the 40?
The guy who's kicking, or the guy who's receiving, or the rest of the team?
The team who are going to go and try and tackle the guy who's receiving.
So all the players line up at the 35 with the other team at the 40, so 5 yards apart. But the returner lines up in that 20 to the goal line, waiting for the.
So The idea behind it is sound, where it's like you compress the field, and if everybody's running together not as hard, then you're going to limit concussions. However, the issue with that is NFL players reach their top speed in a lot sooner than that. So taking away the like amount of time that they get there actually doesn't reduce the collision speed at all.
Well, and
because
you
they
can't,
reach their top speed within that anyway.
and only the kicker and the guy receiving the ball can move before the ball is caught or hits the ground.
Right. Okay. What?
So you line up at the 40. I line up at the 40. You line up at the 35. The receiving guy's back here. We kick it. None of these dudes can move until this dude catches it or the ball hits the ground. I hate it. I fucking hate it. Now, they haven't passed it yet, but it's going to pass in May. They're tweaking it, and I fucking hate it.
Hopefully they'll tweak it to the fact that they can move. So it just swings it too far. You're right. It swings it too far the other way now, where you just put your best player back there, and then the kicker's just going to say fuck you and send it out. The way that the XFL fix that is by putting the kickers back. Like, the kickers are further away, aren't they, from the
well, the kicker will
from the end zone,
from way back at the 30, but everybody else will be lined up on the other side of the field on the 40 and the 35.
So your kicker has to make it a while before it'll be touchback, though. Like, the kicker's got to like absolutely launch it before they can get it to go touchback.
But they have to land it between the 20 and the goal line, because if it lands in the end zone, then the ball comes out to the 30.
Yeah, but they're okay. Yeah, but as you're saying, I would rather give up the 10-yard penalty.
And it's actually only 5 now. That it used to be 35. Now they tweaked it to 30. It's only 5 because it used to come out to the 25 anyway, right? So
yeah, it is. I would rather have the penalty for not having to kick it to Tyreek Hill. However, the kicker has to make a much better kick to stick it out the back of the end zone. So I think we are going to see more returns from
it'd be the same
NFL kickers should have that level.
It'd be the same kick because they're kicking it from the same spot.
They're kicking from the 30. Yeah, right. Okay, but in the XFL, they kick from further back.
XFL. I think it just looks further because everybody's lined up in that Mickey Mouse fucking hat up. You know what I mean? 60 yards away or whatever. Yeah, I hate it.
Yeah. Don't add too many rules. See, we've just got confused. We've been reading the rules like beforehand, and we've just got confused.
We might as well just go to fucking flag football at this point. I just fucking A. All right. Before I go,
as long as there's more, I'm all for there being more returns, because it's the best. It's one of the best plays in the game when you see somebody return a kickoff.